get them all out. Okay, let's jump straight in about the number one uni question that people ask. What's the social life like? I am genuinely curious because I want to see. There's a lot of people like a little bit nervous but still keen. Let's have a look at how many people from your school are going to your uni. Now, this is a separate question of how many people are doing your degree. Let's go. Launch and save this. How many people from your school are coming to uni with you? Because I see a fair bit about, and maybe this is a bit cringy, so I apologize if you don't want to hear about this. It's about like how do you make friends at uni, right? It's hard, right? Because you're going in, you may not have any people, you know, you might not have heaps. And even then that's a bit daunting because it's okay, I don't necessarily want to hang out with just people I went to high school with. I'm a grown person. I'm an adult at uni. So sometimes, and if you have friends coming with you, great. But a lot of people ask, or I've heard people ask and be stressed about before, especially when like you see the like UNSW subreddit, like how do you make friends? And it's pretty stressful, right? Like it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna rock up, I'm gonna get on my little train or tram for you Melbourne people. Or Gold Coast. Does Gold Coast have a tram? Brisbane has a tram, maybe? I don't know. Don't know public transport in other cities. You're going to rock on your little train and get off, and there's going to be hundreds of people around you and you know no one. And that's a really scary thought, right? When I started at uni, there were maybe 6 people from my high school that were going to UNSW. UNSW is a pretty big university. There is one girl who did law. And I was friendly with like maybe 3 of those 6 people, but not much more than that. Like, and then none of my besties are coming. And I was terrified because I was like, oh my God. And the number one tip I have is that everyone else is as well. And you can kind of see here in the survey, I know it's 12, it's not exactly a big sample size. Bunch of people have no one. A bunch of people have an okay amount, so not heaps. And then I like the differentiation between so many people having 17% and there only being 8% of friends. So there's about 10% there are people coming to my uni, but I don't like them. And that's totally fine. As you can see, there are a lot of people here in the same boat, right? And I know that sounds incredibly trite and easy for me to say being a 4th year. But your best tip, number 1, is to acknowledge that everyone feels this way. And there's going to be a couple of you like sitting in class, maybe feeling a bit awkward, being like, oh, hi. And one of you will just need to put your dignity on the line just for a moment, swallow it all down and say, hey, do you want to grab coffee? Or do you want to grab lunch after this class? Or hey, can I grab your Instagram? However you want to start it, go for it. And it sounds silly to say, like, just say it. Just ask people to go for coffee because it's like, oh, can I? Like, is that a bit awkward? And it might be like, to be clear, I'm a woman. Like, I don't know. I'm sure guys do, but you might need, for the blokes in the stream, that might not be as much of a thing. I'm not sure. I mean, I go out to coffee with guys, so it's fine. But if that maybe feels a little bit more awkward, think of something else. Hey, where's your next class? Do you want to walk together type thing? Things like asking, what are you studying this term? What's your timetable like? They're general icebreaker questions, but they just allow you to come across as a friendly person who wants to get to know people, and it makes you seem confident, comfortable, and relaxed to the people around you, even if you're absolutely not feeling that on the inside. So I rocked into my first law class. I wasn't late, to be clear, but the law class was fairly full, which was very funny. All the eager nerds, right? And I kind of sat down. I was like, And I just chatted to some people and it was great. And some of those people that were in my class, I'm still really great friends with today, which is fantastic. It can be hard for things like you're in, shoots. You see one person for an hour every day, kind of an hour a week for 10 weeks, and then you'll never see them again. It can be a bit awkward, right? So that's also where things like societies come in. So most of you will have a society that corresponds to your degree, right? So you'll have some type of law society, business society, art society, probably various iterations of like engineering societies or whatever. Join it. If most of you probably had O Week this week, I would guess, at least in Sydney, join it. So if you haven't, you head on into O Week tomorrow, if you haven't been yet, because it is really fun. I know that sounds dorky. It is a really great time. Go by yourself. There will be heaps of other people there by themselves. And rock up to whatever your society stall is and introduce yourself to like the third year that's running the desk and say, hey, like I'm just starting, and they'll sign you up and they'll give you a flyer for the camp in 5 weeks time. And you can say, hey, well, do you have any like tips to start? And they'll be more than happy to chat to you. The people that are running stalls on O Week, Welcome Week, are people that really want to be there. No one puts a gun to the head and forces them to become like an exec at a society. They do that of their own free will. So it is very much a chance for you to just suss out the vibe and get involved. Now, that's for some of those societies are more academic, but most have a mix between social and academic. So the law societies, for instance, will have, study events, and they'll have, talks from prominent legal minds and stuff like that. But they'll also do, law, like start a year party. They'll do law camps, stuff like that. And on that note about camp, really great time. If you feel comfortable enough, and some camps have certain reputations, to be clear. If you do a certain degree at UNSW in a certain society that has a bit of a reputation, I personally wouldn't have gone to that camp. And I'm going to keep that vague because I'm not going to expose anyone. If you've heard, you will know what society I'm referring to here. I'm not going to get sued for defamation or something. Go to camps. It is a great way to make friends because everyone there won't really know anyone. And I think that's why I want to emphasize that most people are at uni and they're keen to make friends. And if they don't want to, if someone's weirdly hostile to you about trying to make a connection, don't, that's their problem. That's a them problem, right? So it's very much, for the first couple of weeks, the onus will be on you to make an attempt. And I know that's a bit stressful. But ultimately, once you kind of get into it, it feels a lot less so. And societies are a great way to facilitate that. Join a bunch of random ones. So join your academic one, like whatever your degree is, because it's a really good one to just be involved in. But then, join the yoga society or the tea and coffee society or the food society, if only to get free food at a certain lunchtime, then you can rock up and chat to some people. My main advice for this point is truly to just like ignore the cringe, because you might feel awkward rocking up by yourself to a barbecue and saying hello to people, and you might feel awkward doing certain things, and you've just got to ignore that. And I know that because I am constantly aware of like just me, but you straight up just have to be like, no, I'm going to revel in the cringe for a second. I'm just going to move and deal with it. Especially for those of you that have not many people that you know of coming to uni with you. It's a really big thing to just kind of push aside the cringe, the awkwardness, and just fully commit to it. And then you'll get home and feel absolutely exhausted from all the social energy you've just spent. But go for it. And now I realize I'm kind of sending this from a certain lens of people who may be more introverted or people who may be a bit more stressed about this. If you're like a natural social butterfly, hell yeah, everyone loves you at uni. You're the best. Like, especially in those first courses when everyone's a bit awkward, you're the best person in the room. So keep doing that. No one thinks you're too loud. I promise. So just fully committing to it, especially in these first couple of weeks, is really, really key. And as I said, sometimes you'll have classes with people and then you're never going to see them again, and that's totally fine. And that's where things like societies might come in, that you see someone regularly at campus Bible study or whatever. That way you may not see someone every week, and then they might pop up in a semester's time in a different course you're doing, and it's like, oh, hey, I saw you a year ago. So you can have multiple ways of making friends. You don't just have to be buddy-buddy with people doing your degree. You can absolutely branch out, have completely random interests. In fact, I would recommend it. Join stuff. It's fun. And on that note also comes sport. So uni sport is actually really great because you don't have to be super competitive. One of the things that I saw before uni nationals last year is so many teams were like, hey, we need someone in our hockey team. They don't have to play hockey. We'll teach them. They just needed a number, right? So rocking up to, especially at O Week, whoever's in charge of like your sport, your student union will like be presenting that kind of stuff. And some will be sport societies like a boxing society or taekwondo society. And then some will be more formal clubs like a rowing club or a netball club. But often these, especially team sports, will still very much have a social league where you can go to uni games in September and have an absolutely fab time, but you can also get that sport. And it's a great way of meeting absolutely random people. So when I played water polo last year, because it was the first time sport was allowed after COVID, I was, myself and my friend, we're the elderly people in the team. Everyone's like first or second year, and we're like, oh, we're third years. And also, we haven't played water polo since the end of year 12. You guys have definitely got us beat. We had a great time. The thing with uni is that it will feel a bit weird at first, like being friends with people in different years. But it very much melds together very quickly. There is no real difference between you and a third year, or when you're a third year and a second year and stuff like that. I remember going up to my law camp and being like, to one of like the team leader, I was like, am I allowed to add you on Facebook? Or is that kind of not allowed? And she was like, no, you're allowed to, like, no, please feel free. There's no rules about that. But I was like, is this like a weird thing? So it's absolutely, uni is number one, as silly as it sounds. Yes, you're there to get a degree, right? It is tertiary education. But the reason why uni is different to high school is that you've, one, got flexibility, which can be a bit scary as well. But two, it's actually fun. You're, one, picking stuff you actually want to do. Hopefully you're doing a degree you actually want to do and not something you've been pushed towards doing. You are meant to have fun at university. You will look, especially if you're doing a long degree, like 4+ years, it's going to be a slog if you're not having a good time on some days. And you can absolutely still do well and have a good time. So I know people that have, gone to uni, struggled to kind of connect to people, and then thrown themselves into study. And I mean, they're doing decent, like they're doing well, but they have no connection to their uni, and they don't seem to care. And that's partially a COVID legacy for people in my year. But I think of the people who have thrown themselves that I know, me, my other friends who I went to high school with that are now absolutely thriving. I love seeing them when they post on Instagram and they're doing great. The enjoyment you will get out of that will also make you do better academically, because you'll actually enjoy coming to uni. It won't just be, oh, I've got to go to uni for a lecture. It'll be, oh, I've got a lecture this morning, but then I'll get lunch with my friends, so it's all good. Or, oh, I've got a lecture. Oh, that's okay. I'm going to go to the pub after with some mates. So it's 100% a way for you to actually build some connections and have a great time. Uni's meant to be fun. I know that's a bit controversial. I mean, if you're doing medicine, maybe caveat all of that. You might be slogging it for a bit longer. But even then, I know people doing med that are still having a great time. I would say, what's the other really hard subject? Law. I'm doing law and it's fine. And engineering, you'll all be fine. I think the only caveat is like maybe medicine. You might be having less fun than everyone else, but hey, you're going to make way more money than us, hey, and help people.